Overtime hockey, anybody? Pens and Sens coming up on Penguins postgame. My name is Scott McGregor. It's a hockey night in Canada edition of Penguins postgame, and it begins now. You're locked in to Penguins hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Sidney Crosby and the Penguins play here on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Hey, Showtime scores! The bingo game is ready to roll. Welcome to Penguins postgame. PPG for PGH. And you'd have to be here to believe it. Here is your host, Scott McGregor. Penguins and the Senators from the Canadian Tire Center tonight on Hockey Night in Canada. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Penguins postgame here on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. My name is Scott McGregor. Welcome to Penguins postgame here on Sports for Beginners. The Penguins 2, the Senators 3. Overtime hockey, anybody? That was the case tonight in a game that only saw 2 penalties each to Pittsburgh. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Oh, by the way, that happened in one period. In one period. So we're going to get into that in our penalties, in our penalty takers, in just a little bit. But we got to get to the goal scorers. And honestly, it shouldn't take us long because for the longest time, as the penalties happen in the second period, the goal scoring happens in the first period and the second period, and the third period, excuse me, not the second period, third period. So without further ado, as we always do, Canadian Tire Center was the venue. So that leaves us with one more thing to do here in the opening segment before we touch on what went down in this hockey game. And I do want to say that I wish Marcus Pettersson the best of luck in his recovery of his injury. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. But we do know that Marcus Pettersson was injured in the game. We also know that before the game, it was late before the game, but Anton Forsberg, who was supposed to get the start for the Senators tonight, was hurt before the game, so he did not start in this game. He would end up being our backup, but in all honesty, the Ottawa Senators, with no backup for this game, Anton Forsberg was supposed to start this game as the Senators were on the back half of a back-to-back, but was unable to do so. So the Boston Bruin goaltender that came to Ottawa, Linus Ullmark, getting the start for the Senators tonight against Tristan Jarry, who would get the start for the Penguins. Going between the pipes before we go through our head coaches. Okay, that's all right. We can do that. The backup for Tristan Jarry tonight, Alex Nedeljkovic. Nedeljkovic once again backing up Tristan Jarry, who would once again get the start. And who does he get the start for? Well, he gets the start for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Who are they head coached by? Well, They are head coached by Mike Sullivan. The Ottawa Senators, meanwhile, and the goaltenders I just mentioned on their side are head coached by Travis Green. Linus Ullmark getting the start between the pipes for Ottawa against Tristan Jarry. Alex Nedeljkovic and Anton Forsberg are our backup matchup. But it was technically Linus Ullmark versus Tristan Jarry and Alex Nedeljkovic. Because as I said earlier on, I don't have the information on what happened to Anton Forsberg, but I do know that he was injured before the game, so he would not be able to play in tonight's contest. What he was originally scheduled to start in. Good news for Linus Ullmark, another win. Unfortunately, not necessarily a big win for Linus Ullmark. I mean, technically it was a big win for Linus Ullmark, but not necessarily a shutout win, I should say. A shutout win, I should say. As he made quite a number of stops to backstop the Ottawa Senators to a 3-0 win against the Carolina Hurricanes last night in Raleigh, North Carolina, where they were playing in. Goals twice by Shane Pinto and of course Nick Jensen. Shane Pinto and Nick Jensen, excuse me. Apologies for what went down there in the background, but that's okay. So that was Ottawa picking up a win on Friday night in the only game that went down on Friday night, a 3-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes in Raleigh, North Carolina. Tonight, they sweep their back-to-back and defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins. You're going to find out all the shot total and everything in between the 3 stars of the game and so much more in just a matter of moments, right after we take a quick word from our good buddy, Ali Musa, host of Broadcast Map. And while we're at it, why not take a listen to a word from our good friend, Sienna Prigiani, host of Spicy Techie, and sometimes co-host of that program, as Ali also is a co-host of that program and a producer at Sienna's radio station, Sienna T Radio. We'll take a word from Sienna T Radio, as well as Ali's podcast feed for Broadcast Map. And when we return, we'll jump into this 3-2 loss between the Ottawa Senators and the Pittsburgh Penguins. More Penguins postgame on Sports for Beginners and streaming every Wednesday off day this season when the Penguins have an off day in just a moment. Stick with us.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show And to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Senators 3, Penguins 2, let me just try that again. Senators 2, Penguins, Senators 3, Penguins 2. Okay. You get the picture. The Senators beat the Penguins 3-2 is our final score in overtime. And after the Penguins battled hard to make sure we made it to overtime, but unfortunately unable to get the game winner, and our sixth goal of the game, or rather, no, our fifth goal of the game, because there was only 4 goals scored in this game, and the fifth goal was the game winner. That was by Ottawa's own Brady Tkachuk. Before we get to that, what went down before then? Well, let's start with our first period game score. And a quick reminder that we are also going to take a look around the NHL. Given tonight's final score was 3-2 in overtime in favor of the Senators. And later on in the program, I will let you guys know when the Ottawa Senators and the Pittsburgh Penguins will do battle again. Speaking of which, let's not waste any more time and get to it, shall we? Here we go. Thomas Chabot gets things started in the first period with his second goal of the season. Penguin killer and former Philadelphia Flyer Claude Giroux picking up assist number 12 on the season. And number 81, Adam Guietti. Adam G. picking up his third assist of the season. 7 minutes and 34 seconds in, it's 1-0 Ottawa. Ottawa 1, Pittsburgh 0. That would be our score after the first 20 minutes, in which the Ottawa Senators would be out shooting Pittsburgh. Not really, but they would be winning in the shot total at 8-5 after 20 minutes. Penalties taken in the second period as we go over that, but we'll move right into the third period. You know what? Let's do the penalty takers now, because we don't really have a lot to talk about penalty-wise, but let's do it. Let's add it all here in this segment. So anyways, back to the goal scorers in just a moment. But our penalty takers, all from Pittsburgh. First, it was Evgeny Malkin, 2 minutes for hooking, 42 seconds in. 2 minutes for hooking, 42 seconds in. Again, that's 2-minute minor for hooking for Evgeny Malkin, getting the game's first power play to Ottawa and the game's first of 2 penalties to Pittsburgh. The next guy to take a penalty for Pittsburgh was Blake Lizotte. His penalty, 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct. However, no one served the penalty. Blake would serve the penalty 10 minutes and 35 seconds in. And with that being the case, the Ottawa Senators get the game's only 2 power plays in which they don't score on, and the Penguins get the game's only 2 penalties in which they do kill off. More on that in a moment during the game stats. But rolling on here, shots on goal after 40, 14-13 in favor of the Penguins. For the game after 2 periods of play, 19-21 in favor of the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators outshooting the Penguins 21-19 at the end of 2 periods of play. Still, Ottawa 1, Pittsburgh 0. Penguins still down 1-0 after 40 minutes. In the third period, Blake Lizotte said, "That's enough." Blake Lizotte said, "That's enough." And he gets the Penguins on the board, his 7th goal of the season. Former Toronto Maple Leaf, Noel Acciari, picking up his 4th assist of the season. And again, that's former Toronto Maple Leaf, now Pittsburgh Penguin, Noel Acciari picking up his 4th assist of the season. Speaking of former players, the former Boston Bruin, number 24, Matt Grzelcyk, picking up assist number 15 on the season. And just like that, 2 minutes and 40 seconds in, we're tied at a goal apiece. Pittsburgh 1, Ottawa 1. We're in a 1-1 tie, 2 minutes and 46 seconds in. But just a couple minutes later, Drake Bafferson realizes this and says, "No thank you." He gets Ottawa back in front. It's 2-1 Ottawa, with Ottawa's only goal of the third period. His 13th of the season, Thomas Chabot. A goal? How about an assist? He picks up an assist on the Drake Bafferson goal. His 13th of the season, Josh Norris also picking up an assist. His 8th of the season. 6 minutes and 38 seconds in, Ottawa has the lead again. It's 2-1 Ottawa over Pittsburgh. "Not so fast," says Pittsburgh's Christopher Letang. And he quickly ties this one up with 12 minutes, I should say, in 12 minutes and 42 seconds into the game's third period. We are going to need overtime because no penalties, just like the first period, happen in the third period. So Christopher Letang's clutch goal sets up overtime, as after 60 minutes and after regulation, we are knotted up at 2 goals apiece. 4 goals in this game, 2 aside. Pittsburgh 2, Ottawa 2, on to overtime. Shots after regulation, 8 for the Penguins, and 9 for the Senators. Shots after overtime, 1 for the Senators and 0 for the Penguins. That shot on goal, by the way, by the Senators, scored by Brady Tkachuk as he says, "Good night, everybody." And puts this one in the books with his 15th goal of the season. Jake Sanderson picking up his 15th assist of the season. 1 minute and 46 seconds into overtime. And game, set, match, Ottawa. 15th goal of the season for Brady Tkachuk. And 15th assist for Jake Sanderson. And Ottawa survives Pittsburgh to sweep their back-to-back with a 3-0 win over Carolina on Friday night and a 3-2 W over the Penguins tonight on a Saturday night. We were keeping tabs on that previous Penguin postgame show we did, recapping Thursday night's game between the Penguins and the Montreal Canadiens, where the Penguins pulled off a 9-2 W. A 9-2 W over the Montreal Canadiens. We'll talk about the Canadiens in a little bit as we go into a little bit of a look around the NHL, which is coming up next. Also coming up next, based on the shots I've given you by period, how does that wind up in our shots on goal after the game, in total for the game? How does that wind up? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? You're going to find that out, as well as our 3 stars of the game. And I'm going to give you the remaining game stat right off the jump. The play of the game also still to come. Right off the jump, after the game stats and before the 3 stars of the game, we will get you into a little bit of the action from a very busy Saturday in the NHL. 15 games on tap. We're going to get to a couple of them. And as we roll on in the program, we will touch on the games still in progress. But for this coming segment coming up next, we'll touch in on the games that have gone final, including the early games and a 6-3 win for the Edmonton Oilers. That's weird. The Oilers normally play on a Saturday. When they play on Saturday, they normally play Saturday night, so they normally would be underway. Well, they played earlier, and I don't make the schedule, so you play when you play. On that note, going to take another quick timeout. When we come back, a look around the NHL at this busy Saturday evening, or Saturday event, I should say, of hockey. Who won in their games earlier, in the earlier game? Who won in the 7 o'clock slate besides the game we're talking about, which is a 3-2 Ottawa win over Pittsburgh, plus 3 stars of the game, the play of the game, and our game stats. Before we wrap up that next segment, we will get into a little bit of what went down on this Saturday night / Saturday big day of hockey That's still to come next on Penguins postgame. Reminder, shake of the game puck of the game, also still to come. Game puck of the game, time permitting. But also, still to come on the show, it's what's next for the Senators, what's next for the Penguins, at which time I will also tell you when the Senators and the Penguins will next meet, as their 3-game season series started tonight. So when will they play again? And will it be at Canadian Tire Center? Or will it be in the Burgh at PPG Paints Arena? Find all that out later in the show. First, a quick break. Then, a look around the NHL on a Saturday night. And the game stats, 3 stars of the game, and play of the game. All of that coming up next when we return to Penguins postgame. Stick with us.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Welcome back to Penguins Postgame. Welcome back to Penguins Postgame. Penguins and the Senators. It goes into overtime. And Brady Tkachuk says, "Good night, everybody. I got things to do tomorrow. I've already played one game. Won that one 3-0. Let me finish this one off 3-2. And we will leave you be." Well, okay, he didn't say we will leave you be. But you know what I mean. Okay. With that being said, still a lot more to come here on Penguins postgame. Penguins and the Senators. And before we jump into quite the night around the NHL that started off in the daytime, let's jump in with our game stats right off the jump. We talked about the shots on goal by period earlier on. So, how did the shots on goal finalize in the tally? Well, Pittsburgh got a bit closer. Penguins got a bit closer. They got a bit closer. But Ottawa still outshot the Penguins 31-27 in the shot total. This game saw 50 face-offs tonight, and Ottawa won 46% of them. winning 23 out of 50. The Penguins won 54% of those faceoffs, winning 27 out of 50. So the Penguins a little bit better than Ottawa tonight in the faceoff dot. Speaking of being better, the Penguins penalty kill, perfect 2 for 2 on the evening. Ottawa's penalty kill 0 for 0 on the penalty kill tonight, as they did not take a penalty in this game, which also means 0 for 0 are the Penguins on the power play. The Ottawa Senators power play tonight, as they were the only team on the ice, 0 for 2 on the power play. Penguins spending 4 minutes in the penalty box. Ottawa spending 0 minutes in the penalty box. Because, as I mentioned, the Penguins took 2 penalties, and Ottawa's penalty killing unit, the Ottawa Senator penalty killing unit, did not see the ice. Meanwhile, the Penguins winning the hits category 36-32. They finished the game with 11 blocked shots to Ottawa's 17 blocked shots. They gave the puck away 19 times. So Pittsburgh gave the puck away 19 times. But they took it away 7 times. Ottawa took the puck away 7 times as well. Ottawa blocked 17 shots, as I mentioned. And they only gave the puck away one less time, I should say, than the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. 18 giveaways for them, 19 giveaways for Pittsburgh. And they roll on to win. That's our game stats. Before we get to the 3 stars and my play of the game, I promised you we were going to take a look at what went down in the action of a busy Saturday night. Well, here we go. You ready for the final score so far? The Los Angeles Kings went into New York and came out 5-1 victors in the Big Apple today. The New Jersey Devils picking up a 4-1 win on the Chicago Blackhawks. Speaking of 4-1, the Minnesota Wild picking up a 4-1 win over the Philadelphia Flyers. The Edmonton Oilers picking up a 6-3 win over the Golden Knights in Edmonton. Also final, the Anaheim Ducks forced overtime with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it was Alex Killorn to be the hero of a 4-3 win for the Anaheim Ducks. 4-2 final for the Jets against the Canadiens. They take a 4-2 victory over the Montreal Canadiens, the team the Penguins defeated 9-2 on Thursday night. In another busy night in the NHL, 14 games on the slate in that one. The Washington Capitals also won 4-2 as they defeated the Buffalo Sabres 4-2 in Washington. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, speaking of former Maple Leafs in Michael Bunting and Noel Acciari, well, they ran into former Penguin. Okay, Bunting and Noel Acciari didn't exactly run into former Penguin, Jeff Petrie, but the Maple Leafs and Austin Matthews did. And it is our hero of this game is Lucas Raymond with the empty net goal to give the Red Wings a 4-2 W over the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. So far, Pittsburgh and Anaheim, the only games, the games in Ottawa and in Columbus, are the only games that went into overtime. But as you know, our final score of the Ottawa game, 3-2 Ottawa over the Pittsburgh Penguins. The on-the-go action still to come, but a lot that we got to get to before we get there. So, with that said, that's just a little bit of the action that's gone on so far. That ongoing action coming up in a moment's time. But we've talked about the game stats, took a look around the NHL. So now, let's talk about our 3 stars tonight. Have a disagreement or have a difference in the 3 stars rather? Head on over to our Discord server, Penguins Post-Game Show Interactions on Discord, or comment down below in the Spotify comments section, or send an email if it's easier to send an email. Send an email to sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. Again, sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. And use subject when sending an email, 3 stars of the game, play of the game, if you have a different play of the game, if you have a different thought on the shake of the game and the game puck of the game, use that subject when sending your email to sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. That's sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. All right, 3 stars tonight. Well, it kind of surprises me that it's all Ottawa Senators, but the 1 star that doesn't surprise me is the Ottawa Senators goaltender that, as I mentioned off the top, is a former Boston Bruin goaltender. Look it up, look his stats up. He used to play for the Bruins. And no, I don't mean to be rude with that kind of statement, but just take a couple minutes to look up the stats of Linus Ullmark, and you'll see that Linus Ullmark has been a Boston Bruin. All right. Speaking of which, who's joining him? Well, your 3rd star tonight is the game-winning goal scorer, Brady Tkachuk. 1 point, no assist, 1 goal. He is the 3rd star. Your 2nd star tonight, with a goal and an assist for 2 points, That's Thomas Chabot. Who had a goal and an assist in this game. And the goaltender, Linus Ullmark, picking up a .926 save percentage and a goals against average of 1.94. So your 3 stars, Linus Ullmark, Thomas Chabot, and Brady Tkachuk. Those are your 3 stars of the game. And honestly, I do have a bit of a difference of opinion, but we're going to let them stand the way that they are. So with that said, that brings me and us and all credit going to the Ottawa Senators, the NHL, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. But that brings us to the play of the game. Disclaimer, we are not sponsored by these, of which I'm about to bring out, but the play of the game on the Penguins Radio Network, brought to you by Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh's entertainment destination. And the 3 stars, brought to you by your neighborhood Pittsburgh Ford stores. Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs are the official vehicles of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we are not sponsored by any of those. So without further ado, after we've now gone over our 3 stars of this game, it's time for us to talk play of the game. For me, I'm going to go with the on-notice goal that not only put Pittsburgh in the game, not to say that they weren't in the game, because it was only 1-0 through 40 minutes of play, not to mention about almost 42 minutes of play in the first 2 minutes of the third period, but my play of the game is going to go to Blake Lazot's 7th goal of the season. And he's been on fire lately, according to what Joe Brand and the old 2-9er Phil Borg have been saying on the broadcast. And shout out to, speaking of that broadcast, shout out to Paul Staggerwald and the amazing crew at WXDX FM Pittsburgh, your home of the Pens and the best Pens coverage, including Mr. Brian Metz. Metz is going to get a shout out as well. He's part of that crew. All right. Without further delay, my play of the game belongs to Blake Lazot, who got the Penguins on the board before Drake Bafferson quickly got Ottawa back the lead. Here are the men on the call, as we are going to get that to you when it is possible. But here are the men that are on the call, as we are going to see, for the play of the game, which will take us to our next commercial break. And those are the voices of Josh Getzoff and the Arm Dog, Colby Armstrong. As I said, all credit going to the NHL Pittsburgh Penguins and, of course, the Ottawa Senators. And of course, the regional coverage this year provided for Pittsburgh Penguin hockey fans, all credit going to Sportsnet Pittsburgh, where you're going to hear the voices of the men that are going to take us to the next break, possible final break of the program, because the shake of the game puck of the game, and what's next for the Sens, what's next for the Pens, when's the next Penguin post game, all that coming up next on Penguins post game. Stick with us. And for now, enjoy the voices of Josh Getzoff and his partner in crime for this game, the arm dog, Colby Armstrong, with Haley Hunter ringside. And when I say ringside, I mean rink side. Talking hockey. All right, here we go. Enjoy as we take a break.
Heard that sizzle bite here. Flames coming out the backside as Matt Nieto takes the pass from Lazar up top, a one-timer for Grizzlick. Save. Rebound, they score! Blake Lazar hammers it home. And a cellular boot. We're tied in Ottawa. They cracked them up. I'll say it. Starts with a battle and a forecheck in behind the net. Nieto and Lazar after. Look at this little play by Lazar right there. In traffic. He goes into traffic, makes the play outside. You and I were talking at intermission about why are the Pens, just sifting pucks through. Just get it through there. There's been a few times even in the first period.
Back with more in a moment.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches. Welcome back into Penguins postgame. We're almost at the end of the program. We are going to take one final look at a busy night in the NHL on a Saturday night. But before we do, some business to attend to. And that includes our shake of the game and our game puck of the game. So without further delay, we are going to get into that. And just before we do that, I know I'm stalling again, or I know I'm kind of stalling this again, but real quick, and we will touch on this again when we get to the next 5 games for Ottawa and Pittsburgh. Ottawa will see Pittsburgh again in the first month of 2025 on January 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern inside PPG Paints Arena. And then at the end of March, they will play again at PPG Paints Arena. Only this time, The start time is at 5 p.m. Eastern. I don't make the rules. I don't make the schedule. That's what we have. If trouble happens where we get travel concerns, then the game can possibly be turned to another timeline of start or another date, but we will see. So those are the matchups scheduled at TPG Paints Arena as we sit here on a Saturday night. And we'll talk about it more or reiterate it more in a little bit. Maybe after we take another break. But in case we don't get to that break, I want to make sure we save some time to go around the NHL. And we're going to do that after our game puck of the game and our shake of the game. In case we do take a break. That way we wrap up on the other side with what's next for the Sens, what's next for the Pens. And with that said, I want to remind everybody that you can listen to, I should say, and watch, depending on if we have video, but we do have audio for this year, of every Penguins post-game show Maple Leaf versus Penguins matchup on Maple Leaf Post Recap. Available on the Ice and Behind the Benches. And of course, streaming on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. With that said, let's not stall anymore. And let's get to it. The shake of the game was inspired by Jake Gensel when he was still a Pittsburgh Penguin. This inspired our shake of the game segment, which is our player of the game segment. We call it the shake of the game. If Brian Rust scores, since he is now a Penguin, and of course Jake Gensel, who kind of brought this inspiration to create this type of segment with the Milkshake Factory ad that he created with the Milkshake Factory in partnership with the Milkshake Factory, the official milkshake of the Pittsburgh Penguins. We are not sponsored by the Milkshake Factory, but could happen down the road. But as I said, anytime Brian Rust scores, same thing as when Jake scores if he's a Penguin, which he is not right now. He is a Tampa Bay Lightning. But the same thing for Brian Rust. Anytime Rust scores, you receive half off Rusty Shake the next day at the Milkshake Factory. Given the next day is tomorrow, Sunday, by the time you're probably listening to this. If Brian Rust scored one of the goals in this game, you'd get half off Rusty Shake next day at the Milkshake Factory in Pittsburgh at your local Milkshake Factory dealer in Pittsburgh. With that said, speaking of the Penguins, let's start off there. And tonight, our first of two Shake of the Game recipients is going to go to Penguin goaltender Tristan Jarry. 3 goals given up at even strength, but dang, did he play well, especially in that second period of the game. 28 saves on 31 shots. A save percentage of .903. Playing 61 minutes and 46 seconds. Next up, we are going to go to... We're going to go to Blake Lizotte. Blake Lizotte, a goal in this game and a point, no assists. But he does get a couple of other good stuff. he was a +2. Did spend 2 minutes in the penalty box, same as Evgeny Malkin. He was on the ice for 11 minutes and 30 seconds on 19 shifts. Got 1 shot on goal, which went by Linus Ullmark. Registered a hit, 2 giveaways, a 60% face-off chance in the face-off dot, and unfortunately no takeaways for him. So the Penguins recipients of the shake of the game tonight, Blake Lizotte and Penguin goaltender Tristan Jarry. For Tristan, it's a pick-me-up. For Blake, it's a shake of the game recipient. And of course, that brings us to our Ottawa Senators shake of the game recipients. Tonight, the first one up for grabs will be given to Linus Ullmark. He wasn't supposed to start tonight, but he did get the start tonight after Anton Forsberg was injured prior to the game, of which he was scheduled to start. And with that said, Linus Ullmark faced 27 shots by Pittsburgh, let 2 of those goals go in at even strength, and made 25 saves. He is our shake of the game recipient, a pick-me-up shake of the game, going to go to Nick Jensen. Was a -1, no goals, no assists, no points. Spent 23 minutes and 16 seconds on the ice in 27 shifts. Did not score a power play goal or a shot on goal. He did, however, grab 1 hit, 3 giveaways, no takeaways, and 2 blocks in this game. Tonight's game puck of the game, moving on, we'll go to, for Pittsburgh, actually let's start with Ottawa here. For Ottawa, it will go to Thomas Chabot. It will go to Thomas Chabot. Thomas Chabot is our recipient. Thomas Chabot, I should say. He is our, okay. You know what? We're going to go with Thomas C. I had Thomas, your last name. And when I say Thomas, I'm not saying the host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, just to be clear. Just to be clear, I'm not saying that name. I had Thomas's name, his last name right, Thomas Chabot. I had that. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. I got it back. There we go. Thomas Chabot. There we go. Oh, there we go. I had it, but then then the captions that we were recording with, they changed it. But you know what? That's okay. I had it. That's okay. Thomas Chabot is getting the game puck of the game. What had 2 points in the game, an assist and a goal. Didn't pick up a plus or a minus. He also didn't pick up any penalty minutes, but then again, Ottawa didn't pick up any penalty minutes in the game. Was on the ice for 24 minutes and 59 seconds in 28 shifts. 2 shots on goal by Thomas Chabot, one of which went in, I should say. 2 blocks for Thomas Chabot. 3 hits, 4 giveaways, and no takeaways for Thomas Chabot. And he is our game puck of the game recipient for the Ottawa Senators. For the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight, the game puck of the game is going to belong to... Who's it gonna be? Who's the lucky Penguin tonight? Tonight's lucky Pittsburgh Penguin player is number 58, Christopher Letang. 1 goal, 1 point, no assists for him tonight. No plus minus for Chris Letang. No penalty minutes for Christopher Letang. Was on the ice for 26 minutes and 17 seconds in 30 shifts. Did not pick up any takeaways. Gives the puck away 3 times. He gave the puck away 3 times. 4 hit in the game for Letang. And only 1 shot on goal stopped by Linus Ullmark. So your game puck of the game recipient for Pittsburgh is Christopher Letang. For Ottawa, Thomas Chabot. Thomas Chabot is our recipient for Ottawa of the game puck of the game. Recipient for Pittsburgh for the shake of the game, Tristan Jarry. And of course, Blake Lizotte for Ottawa. Linus Ullmark and Nick Jensen. And with that, let's take a quick look around. We're going to wrap it up after we do this. Let's take a quick look around at our ongoing action in the late slate. I'm trying to say late slate. There we go. That's what I wanted to say. Slate of games. 1 game just about went final, I think, as we wrapped up. That was the Stars and the Blues. The Stars winning the game 2-1 in overtime. And former Ottawa Senator Matt Duchene picking up the game winner, his 13th goal of the season, as the Stars beat the Blues 2-1. Still ongoing right now in the second period. Yeah, let's go to the third period first. Third period, the Avalanche leading the Nashville Predators 3-0. In the second period, the Flames leading 1-0 against the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Speaking of 3-0, Pavel Zacha, Morgan Geekie, and Brad Marchand with the game-only goals for that second period down in Vancouver, as the Boston Bruins lead the Vancouver Canucks 3-0 in the second period. Tied at a goal apiece between the Sharks and the Utah Hockey Club. awaiting the next goal. Goals so far in the game scored by Dylan Guenther, his 13th of the year, and Alexander Wenberg, his 8th of the year. In Seattle, Braden Point and Brandon Hagel with the goals by Tampa Bay as they lead the Seattle Kraken 2-1 in the second period. Only one game right now in the third period. That's a 3-0 game between the Avalanche and the Predators. Michael Backlund just scored for the Calgary Flames, and the Flames are on top 2-0 on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. We'll see how these games pan out in the late window. A couple of them in the second period, one of them right now in the third period. All right. Now that we've done that, it's time to find out what's next for the Senators, as well as what is next for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, let's jump into that to start us off, and I'm going to do so via the Pittsburgh Penguins hockey app. Penguin fans, if you don't have the app already, that's quite okay, but if you are really going to be in it for the long haul with the Penguins, download the Penguins app to hear the game on the radio if you don't want the international broadcast, or if you can't find the game on Sportsnet Pittsburgh, or in this case, you don't have Sportsnet Pittsburgh. But in the case of Pittsburgh fans in Pittsburgh, why wouldn't you have Sportsnet Pittsburgh? So with that being said, let's get to it. We are just 3 games away from the first of many, the first of 4, I should say, because I believe it's 4, between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. That game, one Monday from this Monday, and that will be on the 23rd of December. I still can't wait to bring that to you. What a great Christmas gift to bring you Penguins postgame, Penguins and Flyers, right before Christmas. Before they play the Flyers, however, it's WWE night at PPG Paints Arena on Tuesday night, December 17th, 2024, at 7 p.m. Eastern, as the Penguins take on the Los Angeles Kings. Our coverage coming your way, hopefully after the game. We will see what we could do about our game on Thursday, December 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, when the Penguins take on the Nashville Predators in Nashville. And speaking of that, that is a 2-game road trip that will wrap up in New Jersey next Saturday night, December 21st, 2024 at 7 p.m. Eastern when they take on the New Jersey Devils. Then, as mentioned, on the 23rd, the Monday, it is the Penguins and the Flyers at 7 p.m. Eastern from PPG Paints Arena. And to wrap it up for you, a home and home series will wrap up our next 5 for the Penguins, as they will go back to back Saturday and Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern in Long Island on December 28th, right after the short Christmas break. In Long Island, where the New York Islanders are playing. And then that home and home series shifts to Pittsburgh for a 5:30 p.m. game just 2 days before New Year's Eve, Sunday, December 29, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. But as for our next 5, it's the Kings on Tuesday night, the Predators Thursday evening. Next Saturday night, the Devils in Newark, New Jersey. We're just going to say New Jersey. And then the Flyers are in town, inside PPG Paints Arena, for a showdown with the Pens, the first showdown of the Battle of PA for 2024-2025. The Battle of PA is on its way, and that will follow a home and home series to wrap us up, with, of course, one final game against the Red Wings to close out 2024 and kickstart a 3-game road trip that will end in Carolina on a very special day for the host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches and myself. And wouldn't you know it, the Buffalo Bills are playing on that day as well. Hashtag double trouble alert. Hashtag double trouble alert. But in all seriousness, we got to get to the Christmas break, and we're 4 games away from doing so. Going to be 3 games by the time that game against the Kings on Tuesday night goes final. But before we leave you, I want to get to what is next for Travis Green and the Ottawa Senators. And we're going to make sure we make good on that promise and get that to you. We're doing so via the NHL website, nhl.com/senators/schedule, which is our link that we're using for the NHL website around the Ottawa Senators. Now that they've played Pittsburgh for the first time of 3 times, because they will meet again in January, and then near the end of March, let's find out what we've got on tap for you for the Ottawa Senators. It was taking a while to load here, so here we go, go. Okay, that was a little uncalled for. Anyways, on the way to the Christmas break, the Ottawa Senators are on the road for 4 games. Count them, 4 games. Starting in Seattle on Tuesday night, they will take on the Seattle Kraken at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. They'll take on the Calgary Flames Thursday night, December 19th, in Calgary. Then they go head-to-head in the main event before after hours on Hockey Night in Canada, in Vancouver, on CBC, as they take on the Canucks at 10 p.m. Eastern. That's a back-to-back, which means with just 1 day to spare before Christmas, they will wrap up their season as they get to the Christmas break with a showdown with McDavid and the Oilers at 8 p.m. Eastern on Sportsnet and TSN. And to wrap up their next 5, that road trip of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games to wrap up the month of December. It'll wrap up our next 5 with a visit to Winnipeg on a Hockey Night in Canada after Christmas on the 28th of December. Following up with another back-to-back that will see the Senators, in Minnesota to wrap up the month of December and the final month of 2024. So 6-game road trip to wrap up the final month of 2024 and December. But that is actually about an 9-game road trip, it looks like, because they will be on the road to start the new year. Come home for a game, play Pittsburgh, go back home for a game on the back-to-back, rinse, repeat. And it looks like back-to-backs are all over the weekend in January. But enough about that. Next time on Penguins Postgame, we're talking Pens and the Kings for the first time this season in 2024-2025 season. As it rolls on through New Year's Eve and after Christmas. As we speak here before we wrap up, the Penguins have now played in 32 games this season out of 82. The Ottawa Senators have played in 30 games. The Penguins, and here on our Penguins post-game program, Penguins have played now 32 games, and they now have 50 games left in the season. Meanwhile, the Ottawa Senators have played in 30 games. So how many games does Ottawa have left? Let's see. They have 52 games left to go in the season. We're getting down to it. I mean, we're not quite at the halfway point of the season. But hey, it's an 82-game season, but we're getting down to it. As soon as we get past January, we go to the month of the Foreign Nations Tournament, which is February. And sooner or later, we're talking crunch time for Pittsburgh, Ottawa, and many teams. But that's going to do it for this episode of Penguins Postgame. So thank you very much for joining us here today on the podcast. Of course, we're recording this audio-wise. It's not video. But if it was video and you are watching on YouTube, hit like if you like what you've heard. Hit the like button if you like what you've heard. Hit subscribe if you really like it. Tell all your friends. The Penguins fall 3-2 in overtime to Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators tonight on Hockey Night in Canada. That is it for us, ladies and gentlemen, but you won't be able to get rid of my voice that quickly. If you're a Bills fan, whether you're an Ottawa Senators fan or a Penguins fan, but you're also a Bills fan, join me after the game between the Bills and the Lions for another edition of Bills Postgame. Bills versus Lions. That will come your way on Monday. I might record after the game has gone final. Oh, by the way, CBS is on site for that game. Remember how I said they were on site for the Chief game? Well, we're doing that again. This time in Michigan, where, as luck would have it, tonight's Maple Leaf game went down in Motown. Yeah, that's right. Just across the street from Comerica Park and down the road from Little Caesars Arena. The site of my next recording for Penguins postgame and the next Bills postgame, mind you, is Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. But that to be talked about on Bills postgame. Our next Penguin postgame, as mentioned, is not till Tuesday. So hope to see you then. And as always, be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Have a great evening, everybody. And we will catch you all next time on Penguins postgame. Pens and the Kings next time on Penguins postgame. Good night, everybody. And let's go Pens. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. You've just listened to Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners or visit the official Sports for Beginners podcast website. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned. And remember that it is not goodbye, it is until next time. And you'd have to be here to believe it.